it. Breaking, pass out.
What is going on, guys? My name is Ricardo. I'm your host of the Clear to Close podcast. And today I have a very special guest who I'm super excited. I think we're going to have an absolutely amazing conversation about all things real estate. It's our absolute favorite topic. Nii, who has been one of my first clients, actually started off as my client back in 2021, and has now grown his portfolio, has had massive success moving from a W-2 job to going full-time real estate. But I just wanted to make an introduction for him so that he can show you guys what it is that he's done and how he's been successful and how we work together for our clients. So Nii, thanks for jumping on today.
Come on now. And thank you, Ricardo, for having me. It's been awesome partnering with you both for my deals as well as for clients. And as you mentioned, my name is Nii and I. I am the leader of the Acaba Home real estate team that's based in Georgia, but we now cover Georgia, Florida, and Texas. We work primarily with investors, and this is our niche. And Ricardo's been amazing as an investor-friendly lender to help us get to where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Really, I think the best place for us to start would be to just take us back 10 years ago. Like, what was Nii doing at that time? What was the mindset that you had? And just walk us through that journey, because I feel like we were talking about this offline, but you have had you've had a very interesting journey of being extremely successful in your corporate W-2 job as a salesperson and then pivoting into full-time real estate. And it takes a strong mindset to be able to do that. So I really want you to walk the audience through what that looked like for you and what were some of the hurdles that you were experiencing.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, what I'll say is you just got to take it one step at a time, right? You've got to keep moving in the direction that you're looking to go for every single day. It's not all going to happen at once. And so taking it back a decade, I had just gotten out of college, really a little over a decade ago, and I got into my dream job of being in medical device sales. And so as a medical device sales rep, I was able to go out and travel around the country and go visit hospitals and make a good amount of money. And I was trying to figure out, how do I make this money start to work for me? And so what ended up happening is I sat down with some finance guys that were in our office and tried to learn about stocks. And it was crazy, right? Like they were like, hey, you can do this, you can do that, you can do some shorts, you can do, I didn't really understand it. I read some books on it. I'm like, guys, this is probably not going to work for me, right? I just need something that's simple, that I understand and that I can put pen to paper and actually like go after.
Yeah.
And so along that same time, I started listening and found this podcast called the Bigger Pockets Podcast. And that was something that made a lot of sense. Hey, you have to have somewhere that you need to live. And if you do this strategy that they were talking about called a house hack, where you live in, a duplex, triplex, quadplex, live in a unit, rent the others out, you could cut down on your living expenses and be able to have an investment property when you move out. And so that is where I set my mind to and started investing back in 2016 with the house hack. And when you fast forward to where we are today, it's been an incredible journey, right? I never thought at that moment that, hey, I'm going to be able to move into full-time real estate 7 years from then, back in 2022. But what ended up happening is I just kept staying consistent investing and kept moving up in my career. And I love what I did up until the last role. The last role that I got promoted into was a director role. And it was completely different. No longer was I in the field, like chasing down, opportunities and getting to meet with, the actual nurses on the ground. I was meeting with all the executives and getting all the headaches, and there was not really a payoff. And so because I had invested for 7 years, I was able to sit down, look at the portfolio and say, you know what? I actually have enough to move into my passion, which is full-time real estate and helping others along the journey as well.
Yeah. Take us through the first deal that you did in 2016, and just, you're so green in the process. What was that like for you? What was the experience like with the realtor and the lender? How is that different than what you do for the clients now? That's what I think is a powerful thing, because many people's first deals could go to complete opposite way of what they were thinking.
Absolutely. And I'll say my first deal, right? I still remember vividly. I couldn't sleep for 3 weeks before we closed and for like a month after. I thought, man, I'm ruining my life.
What is going on? I'm committed to this thing for 30 years.
I'm like, what am I doing? I should have just stuck to a 401k. Like, this is terrible. And I'll tell you that it was one of the best decisions of my life, right? And it got me to where I am right here. But that first deal was a triplex in Louisville, Kentucky. And before buying that, I was living in a dope 2-bed, 2-bath. It was like an amazing loft. You could afford a lot in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I was paying like $1,200 a month to have a pool right next to me.
Oh man.
Amazing loft, brand new, first one there. And when I went to go get this triplex, it was not in the best neighborhood, right? There were some things that were needed to update it. But when you look at the numbers, the mortgage was going to be $1,350, and I was going to be able to pull in $1,400 from the other 2 units that I wasn't occupying.
Perfect.
So I'd live for free. I
Yeah.
was like, this is amazing. So I went and purchased it. The realtor that I was using was not an investor-friendly realtor, right? It was just a regular realtor. So she didn't really understand what I was looking for when we were going to search for houses.
Gotcha.
I ended up being the one like pushing her and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And when it came to post-close, actually getting some of the contractors and the people that I need to do the work, she had none of those contacts, right,
Wow.
that would actually be able to help me. She had like the people from, that have sponsored ads where they're going to charge the most to do the work. And I'm like, hey, that's not what I need. And so that was not the greatest experience in my first one.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was able to find an investor-friendly realtor after that. And then for the first deal, I actually went with, one of the big banks. I didn't know any better to go to, a mortgage broker or to go to even a credit union to try to get lending at that point. And so that loan process was pretty vanilla. Thankfully, I didn't have any pre-existing
Complex.
loans or anything
Yeah.
like that. And I was working a W-2. So it went smoothly, but I can tell you, I couldn't reach out to that person like I do with your team on Saturdays and Sundays to figure out.
They're off at 4:49. They're out of the office.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. But what ended up happening with that deal? Did it work for you when you moved in, and did you actually live there rent free? Like you were paying mortgage for the time that you were there?
Absolutely. I lived there for 6 months. I know technically you're supposed to do for a year, but I got promoted and moved all the way up to Boston, 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Within 6 months. But it was amazing, right? There was a lot of fixes and things that I had to do. I spent a hell of a lot of money on that. So full transparency, when you get into real estate, there are going to be some things that you can't account for. And as a newbie, right, without the investor-friendly realtor, I didn't know what I was looking for. And so there were certain things that, like, for example, I had to replace a furnace unit because it was super old, but it was working during the inspection period.
Of
But we
course.
didn't negotiate
Yeah.
for it.
Always. A week later, it's like they know a week later after the inspections, they just stop working.
Yeah. So those type of things were like, okay, that's stuff that we can help mitigate against. But that deal overall, I ended up keeping it for 4 years. When I moved out, I was able to rent my spot out, and I was bringing in a total of $2,200 a month
Amazing.
on a $1,350 mortgage, which was great. And then once I sold it 4 years later, I was bringing in $2,850 a month. So the rent had increased, and I sold it for a little over $300K. And so I bought it for $190, sold it for like $310, walked away with a 6-figure check, and I actually never paid the mortgage myself. So that was
insane.
a major eye-opening experience.
Yeah. But between that time frame of before you had even sold that other property, you were already looking for new deals. Boston, you didn't end up buying anything when you were living there, did you?
I did. So
Okay.
in Boston, I've been house hacking since 2016,
Okay.
right? In Boston, it looked a little different. One, Boston is not a landlord-friendly city or state. And so I didn't want to build out a huge portfolio, but I did want to continue house hacking. And so when I first moved up there, it was super expensive. So I house hacked an apartment. I lived in 2 bedrooms and rented out the other 2 bedrooms to 2 other people to cut down on my expense.
Yeah.
And then after about 2 years, after we closed some deals, I went and bought a condo and did the same thing. Just I owned the condo.
Amazing.
For the next year and a half.
Yeah. And then what snowballed for you to want to continue to do it? I mean, you just felt like it was working and you were like, now I just need to go find more resources that are doing this?
Absolutely. I just kept learning and listening to the podcast and reading more books on real estate investing and getting better at it. And I felt comfortable in Louisville, Kentucky. And then I identified an investor-friendly realtor who's now my partner on some deals. Monica,
Monica's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And long story short, she helped me take it from those 3 units up to 30 units in like a 4-year period. Right. And so I just kept funneling all the funds that I made from my W-2 into more real estate. And that allowed me to eventually leave the W-2 because I had enough coming in to make the jump.
Yeah. Now, when you were in that W-2 position of being, you were in a high earning W-2 salesperson position, you switched because you didn't like the fact that you were in a more director role. You weren't the boots on the ground. But was the idea for you at that time to also be purchasing real estate because of the tax savings, or was it purely, I want to build my portfolio, I want cash flow?
Man, so initially, the first 5 years of my investing was all long-term rentals. It was, I'm building cash flow for the future. I want to have these things pay off over time and kind of go that route. It wasn't until I got promoted to that director role, and one of the reasons I took it is I could move back to the Southeast where my family was. I could choose anywhere in the Southeast to live, which I chose Atlanta because it's just amazing. And so I took that role and moved down here. And I finally said, you know what? Let me try out this short-term rental thing. Everybody's been talking about it. Let me see how this works. So I did a house hack, right? And in that house hack, I had a short-term rental, and I was estimating, okay, maybe I can make about $1,500 a month. That'd be good. The numbers work for that. and I started making 2,500 a month.
Wow.
And that whole time, I think one of the months I made like 3,200 on a
Wow.
1 bed, 1 bath. So I was like, this is amazing. And so that same year, I went and bought another full home. And this is when we were connecting on a bunch of different deals. That was a short-term rental, and started expanding from there. And it was only after I got that second one that I started to learn about the tax benefits involved.
Yeah.
So I was getting it just because I was buying amazing properties in awesome neighborhoods and it was cash flowing like crazy. And then in conversations with you, started to learn about the tax benefits. I was like, hold up, I can do a cost seg and save what? And so it allowed me to keep a lot of the money I was earning. And from there, I've been investing consistently at least one short-term rental per year to make sure I could take advantage of some of these tax benefits.
Now, take us back to the mindset behind all of this, though, because there's many people who would say, well, yes, if the numbers make sense, like, okay, I would pivot and take the deal. But a lot of people get stuck and just don't take action, even if the numbers do make sense. What was that differentiator for you?
To start taking action?
Yeah.
It's one where you got to have a switch flip in your head, right? Because if you want your tomorrow to be different, you've got to take action today. And so when I got that first property, as I mentioned before, I was nervous, man. Like I always tell our clients that we talk to now, especially when they're getting their first property, that feeling in your gut is normal,
Yeah.
right? You've got to push past that. We're here to help you. We're running the numbers together. We're all looking at it. It makes a lot of sense on paper, but you still got to take that action. And that action is what's going to set you apart from those other people who are not able to move away from that W-2 when they want. And the thing that I always thought about as well is, if I completely mess this up, I can still go down the normal path, right? I can still go get a W-2.
Yeah.
I can still go do the 401k and the stocks and things of that nature if I completely crash and burn. But on the flip side, what if this is a success and it allows me to achieve my goals a lot quicker, which it did?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. And I mean, I guess that confidence for yourself of knowing, I'll land on my feet anyways. It's hard moving from a high 6-figure W-2, 7-figure W-2 to going to something that's full-time real estate. Walk us through just the mindset of you making that pivot, because I know that was not an easy decision of you saying, yes, okay, I'm going to go full-time real estate and doubling down on this is what I really want to build with the Cabo Home Team.
It definitely wasn't easy. This was one of those things where you're laying awake at night thinking like, man, what am I doing? Like you're making 250 plus all this other bonuses and stuff a year. Like, what are we doing moving away from this?
Yeah.
Because real estate definitely as a realtor wasn't pulling in that at that time. But then you start to factor in some of the time costs, right? Of, hey, Monday through really Saturday, your time is owned, right? And what if you want to start a family and things of that nature? So that was one of the pieces that I thought about.
Yeah.
But the other piece is just the math. When you actually sit down and do the math, I was paying, even with some of these other, strategies, I was still paying a lot in taxes, right? Because it was all W-2 earnings as opposed to being a 1099 where I can write some things off, and being a full-time real estate professional where I can write even more off, right? From a depreciation standpoint. So that was a major factor. And then I started to look at how can I build up the real estate business as well as other pieces like the short-term rental management that we do,
Yeah.
and other things to where it could replace that income enough to where I felt comfortable making that jump. And so what I advise anybody who's thinking about making the jump into full-time real estate is you should use your business or your work as a partner. Don't make that jump until you are so busy doing that real estate that you have to make a decision. And that's what happened with me. I got super busy to the point where we were closing 2-3 deals a month as a realtor.
Yeah.
Plus we were managing like 6 properties, including a 10,000 square foot mansion.
Yeah.
And we were getting ready to do the self-storage build, right? And things of that nature. And I had to work a full-time W-2 that was commanding 40, 50 hours. And they're like, Nee, we're going to start traveling again because COVID's over. And so long story short, it got to the point where I was almost missing meetings for the W-2.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I'd much rather make the decision to jump now because I know we have enough funds to make it happen and see if we can make this thing work.
Yeah.
Than ruin my reputation. And so that's when I made the decision.
Yeah, and you have. I mean, it's been extremely successful over the last couple of years building out the team. What was the focus for you behind a Cabo Home Team of like the brand and this is what we want to deliver to our clients, and really making your team understand that the culture and the motto of like, this is how we're going to deliver the service?
Man, so I think too many realtors and professionals in general are trying to be everything to everybody. And that's not how you get ahead.
Yeah.
Right? Like people need to know, hey, when you call a Nii and the Cabo Home Team, They're going to be the investor friendly folks, right? This is what they focus on. They can help me with this. When I'm looking for a CPA, I'm not just looking for like a regular CPA, right? I'm looking for somebody who knows real estate, somebody who invests themselves, because they're probably going to be studying the tax law to help themselves,
Yeah.
and then they can use that to help me. And so that was the whole focus for the team. And the reason that we niched down there is because one, I personally invest, and I was like, hey, this would be great to be able to help others do that. And two, I saw the benefit over a 7-year time period of having an investor-friendly realtor while I was working at W-2 help me build up my whole portfolio, right? She helped me build up my whole portfolio. Now she's my business partner on a self-storage that we built from the ground up, and continuing to mentor me even in this real estate game.
Yeah.
And so that was our niche. I wanted to have a focus so that we could like tell everybody and people would know, like, okay, if you have something investment related, send it to these guys. They'll be able to help you.
Yeah. What is it? What would be an ideal client for somebody what you guys typically work with?
Anybody that's looking to build wealth through real estate, right? And not plan to buy just one deal, but multiple over time.
That's right.
That's the ideal client. Whether you're a new person and you just heard about this real estate investing, or you have been in it for years, we're able to help you continue to build your portfolio, and we're actively building ours. And so the cool thing that we're able to do for those type of clients is because we're in the game as well, we open up our whole contact list, right? I can't say how many people are like, hey, I'm working with Wells Fargo. I'm like, guys, no, like, listen, let's stop right now. Go talk to Ricardo. Right? I need to get an investor-friendly lender, because they're telling you have to put down 20%, but there's a 15% DSCR waiting for you that can help you get a better deal.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we can help.
Yeah, I mean, financing is the other more important half of the home buying journey. It's just the least fun part of the home buying process, right? So it's like nobody wants to do it. It's like, I don't want to go to the dentist, but I know I should be going to the dentist. It's the same thing when it comes to mortgages. It's like, I don't want to go talk to the bank so that they can tell me about my finances, but I know that I should be in order to understand, like, how can I get into this deal with minimal money out of pocket. But it is the strategy. A lot of the strategy in what we do for our clients on real estate investing is behind the money on the deal. I mean, or saving our people a ton of money on these deals. What have you noticed has been some difficulties of trying to actually run like real estate as a business versus if you were to have just been like, I'm just going to double down and only go real estate investing for myself?
Man, so it's definitely different, right? You've got to build out, because if it was just me for myself, I have it all in my head. So I could just,
Yeah.
okay, I know exactly who I'm reaching out to. I got my contractors, things of that nature. But now when you expand it to be able to help others, you really got to have your systems in place and tight. And so I find myself, spending a lot of time actually doing Loom videos and trainings for the team to make sure that everybody's as sharp as they can be to make it happen for clients. And then for clients, it's really just having a structured process that we refine over time and not really letting anything get out of that. For example, a lot of people will come to us and be like, hey, I saw these 3 houses, can we run numbers on them? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, hey man, like, we're going to pause for a second. Let's talk about what your overall goals are. Have you gotten pre-approved? No, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do a buyer consult to walk through the whole process and show you how we run numbers so that when we see a good deal, you can reverse engineer that. It's putting all that on pen and paper and making sure you follow a full-on system. Because when you're investing yourself, you can just kind of have in your head and skip some of the stuff.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. No, I totally agree. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we've noticed for our clients that are wanting to scale their real estate portfolio is just having clarity behind the path. You had clarity behind, I'm going to buy long-term rentals, and then you eventually switched to, I'm comfortable with long-term rentals, let me pivot to short-term rentals. Then you got to a point where you said, I'm comfortable with short-term rentals, let me pivot to commercial. How was that different for you? Because I've talked to many investors on commercial, and one of the things that I always tell them is, I was like, our clients, you're a perfect example, always start with residential first before they get to commercial, because it is a completely different animal. And I'm curious, you're doing something that is way different than what most people are used to for commercial. What was that experience like for you?
My goodness. So you're 100% right. Commercial is way different, and the zeros just get added on.
Yeah.
That's the main difference. Like,
Yeah, with the cost.
like, hey, we need 10, 20K a piece. I'm like, what's going on? No, it's just normal. So that commercial world is completely different. That lending is a lot different. It's not going to be the 30-year fix that you're used to. There's usually going to be some type of balloon. It's completely different residential. So I'd highly advise any newer investor to start with residential, and then after you build up the experience, move to commercial.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of helped us, because both of us were investors in Kentucky for a long time. for her for over a decade, me for at least 7 years before we moved into this project. And so we already had a lot of the contractors that had done work on our houses before,
To have the
where we
context.
felt, yeah, where we had the relationships to where
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going for something bigger. Have you done something like this before? Do you know somebody that has? And being able to tap on those guys was truly beneficial. And even some of the small things, like with the residential, we were able to cut our teeth on even managing a contractor, right? Because it sounds one way, right? But when you actually get into it, you realize like, hey man, there's certain things I have to do to manage this person. Like one, you got to have the money right.
Yeah.
Like you need to have it all spelled out on paper, the exact deadlines, maybe have some penalties in there, some bonuses in there to really make sure you can get something done on time. And even then, it's still probably going to drag.
Yeah.
So the commercial deal, it was supposed to take 6 months to build. It took like closer to 18 months, right? But thankfully, because we had some things in our contract, we recouped some of those funds for the delays. But yeah, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah. And what about where it is today? What's left with the commercial deal? What are you actively working on for it?
Man, so the storage is good. Now we're just stabilizing. It's at about 70% occupied, which is amazing. And the cool thing about storage is once you get people in, they don't tend to leave.
Yeah.
And we're just managing that now with a VA and a handyman. We literally just meet with them once a week, which is awesome. And then we have the other 9 acres, which we plan to build townhomes on. That project's been put on hold because the city came back and said, hey, instead of 105 townhomes, you could build 88 because we want to have some like green
spaces. Yeah.
And those 20 units is literally the profit. So it's like, I don't know if this is going to make sense. Like this. We're working on that piece.
Yeah.
But that's where we are with the.
Is there anything that you've learned from diving into commercial now with managing partners, bringing other people into a deal? Because I get a lot of questions from our clients too. We've taken our clients from the people who've bought their very first houses. They bought their primary residences with us a couple years ago. Then they bought the investment properties, and they come to me with questions on partnerships, how to source capital. What do those contracts look like? What do the percentage splits look like? Who's doing what? What was that experience like for you?
Man, so it's literally, and you've probably heard this before, it's like a marriage or a relationship. You have to get everything out up front. You need to have these conversations well before you go and sign the agreements and make sure you're all on the same page. And even before we did the storage project, that was a piece where it was just me and my partner. We were able to go 50-50 on that piece, bring the down payment and get the rest from the bank to make that piece happen. But in that, we actually sat down with a lawyer, and the lawyer asked us questions like, hey, what if one of you passes away, right? Like unexpectedly, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, what if, 5 years from now, one of you's like, hey, I got a life event, I want to get out of this, and the other one wants to keep going. These are things you have to answer well ahead of time before you even get into that partnership. So first and foremost, make sure and now we got the AIs of the world, right? So make sure you go into like the ChatGPTs or the Claudes and ask questions in there of what you guys should be talking to each other about, and then take it to a lawyer to get that operating agreement drawn up. And you have to know what your roles and responsibilities are. Because I can tell you, if you don't fully define that and you just think, hey, we're just going to split everything down the middle, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to leave resentful because they're going to be like, hey, I thought you were going to be doing this and you're not. And so that's a good way to test the partnership. And then when you talk about bringing in other investors specifically, this is one where you got to pull in just a lot more. There's 2 ways you can do it. And don't quote me on the actual, like the terminology for it, right? We ended up going with the one that's more open to everybody.
Yeah.
But there's one where you can go after only accredited investors, people that are making, 250K plus, and don't quote me on that either, right? But accredited investors, essentially their CPA has to say that they're accredited. And then there's another where you're able to go kind of to more individuals, even friends and family and things of that nature, and kind of pull from anybody. And so we decided to go to the more open one because we wanted to be able to pull from a lot of people for the townhome build. That's a $20 million project.
Yeah.
And so there's so many ways to set it up. We try to keep it simple. We didn't take any fees, right, for managing or things of that nature. We just want to have our straight split. And we have it built in to where those that give more money are going to get a preferred return that's a little bit higher and get it first, right? And then it kind of cascades from there. But there's so many ways you can build it. I would recommend talking to lawyers and other people that have done this before so that you can see their examples and just see what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's most people who are getting into a $20 million project are not getting into it by themselves. They have somebody or a business of, another party that they're bringing in who has some level of experience that can guide them through to the finish line. It's kind of like our clients who are very green that come to us. wanting, the full service that will take them from start to finish. What do you feel like has shifted for you within the business where like now we have our partnership operating at a different level that helps us move more efficiently? Did that change the business for you with your clients? Is that allowing you to win over more people because you offer something that's different than just an average realtor that somebody reaches out to on Zillow?
Absolutely, 100%. Getting down into this niche has helped tremendously because now people truly understand the overall value that we're bringing, right? And with the partnership that we have with you and being able to send clients to people that we know are investor friendly lenders as well, it helps just the whole conversation to take somebody from point A to point B. For example, one of the things that we deal with when we have a client that's trying to work with like a Bank of America or one of those, Wells Fargo type of banks, is we tend to do some creative stuff with credits, right? And there are credit limits, but there's ways that you can use credits to get tremendous amount of value that have nothing to do with the limits.
Yes.
And so when they're going back to those lenders and they're like, hey, we got 6% in credits, those lenders are freaking out and saying, oh, you got to take up the price.
Nope. Yeah.
Like, no, you can't do this. This is whatever. And whereas when we take them to you, you're able to talk to them and say, hey, here goes a couple ways that you can use this to make it happen, or we can switch the loan product to make it happen. And so that's been beneficial. But being able to truly give that full service to that somebody that's green in the business, and they come in with just, hey, this is where we want to get to, but we have no idea the steps in between. We're able to articulate that and really take them on a journey to where they can achieve their goals.
Yeah. And I think because both you and I went from the W-2 positions to full-time real estate, we went from starting a real estate portfolio. My first investment property was also a long-term rental, and then moving to short-term rentals. We've done that. And so a lot of the advice and guidance that we give to our clients comes from that part of, hey, we've done this already. Here's what we've seen work. Here's what we haven't seen work, and how to avoid those pitfalls. I think that becomes the largest part. Not only that, but then also wanting to walk the client through from the very beginning of, I don't even know what a mortgage is, to, what's an ARM? Never heard of that in my life, to how do we get to closing? What does that process look like? What does post-closing look like? I think that there's a lack of information for that type of investor. Somebody who knows, I want to buy my first house. Maybe that's going to be a house hack. I don't want to have a $4,000 mortgage, but I want to own a property. And there's so much creativity behind it that's not even talked about, that even to this day, people still think they have to put 20% down.
It's crazy. And I think you're 100% correct, right? The fact that we both walk the walk, like we're actively investing out here, I think that's one of the major benefits. Anybody that I'm going to bring into my circle, right? Whether it be a lender, whether it be a CPA, whether it be, anything that I'm looking for, or even like a bookkeeper, I want to see that person is trying to do the same thing I am, right? Like, are they investing? Are they in this game? Because if they are, they're probably studying all this stuff for themselves,
Yeah.
and they're going to be able to help you out.
Yeah.
Right. So for those green investors, right, the fact that we can say like, hey, I just bought a short-term rental last week and this is exactly how we did it. Right. Like,
there you go.
It helps tremendously. And to your point, it gets them from, being green to experience very quickly.
Yeah. How has, kind of taking a pivot now, I mean, you're new to fatherhood now. Your son is 10 months old. How has that changed for you with the business? I mean, talking about you 10 years ago, you were the one grinding for 70 hours a week and trying to go out to all these offices. What's different now, and how are you shifting the business moving forward?
Man, so first and foremost, it's a blessing, right? Young Abraham is 10 months now as of this recording here in May, which is awesome. And it's one of those where it makes you more efficient, right? Like it makes you have to say, okay, how am I using my time on a day-to-day basis? Because let's be real, there's times where you're doom scrolling or you're like, hey, I just wasted 2 hours. I have no idea what I was actually doing. So it makes you really start to get a lot more efficient with your time. And I think that you really have to have an abundant mindset if you want to build a big thing, right? Like you have an abundant mindset. You're looking to build the biggest mortgage company in the world, right? And so you've got a team of, a lot of people, right, that are working behind the scenes to help and make it happen. And the same thing with us. We want to be way bigger than we are right now. And so it's leaning on the team. It's making sure that you can start shifting a lot of the responsibilities to each other and really depend on each other, and then holding that standard and taking it to another level. For example, we've had new team members join in the past year, and we've had other team members be shuffled out because they weren't reaching at that standard.
Yeah.
And so you've got to set the standard and hold it, but then you have to actively continue to just shift a lot of the work. So for example, We're working with the client right now. A client is at a property right now while I'm doing this with one of our team members doing their final walkthrough because they're closing this upcoming week. They're meeting with the designer, meeting with the cleaner, and things of that nature. In the past, 5 years ago, this would be me. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'd have to be there to walk through because what if the client has a question and what does it look like if I'm not the one that's there? But now we've gotten comfortable with depending on each other as a team and saying, all right, hey, your responsibility is to make sure that the client is good on the final walkthrough. Okay, your responsibility is to help get all the contractors in during due diligence. And we kind of just split the work in that manner.
Yeah, which is awesome. Because the thing is that you like Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor was it built by one person. So that in that example, right, you cannot build something great and meaningful and powerful to your audience or to your clients and be able to deliver that when your time is the one that's constrained, right? You have to know what is your highest and best use as the person driving the ship, and how can the team work with you to be the ones that are delivering that overall client experience.
100%.
Yeah, I love it. To kind of get us into our last segment here, Nii, what are some things that you're looking at for the next 2, 3, 4 years? What does that look like for the Cabo Home team? I mean, over the last year, I've seen you go into other states now, which has already been proven to be successful. I'm assuming that's the continuous trajectory, but for both you personally and for the business.
Man, so I think you're spot on. We're looking to continue expanding. We want to be the investor-friendly realtors for Georgia, but also we're now in Texas and Florida. So we're looking
Right.
to continue expanding and checking out other
All the
states.
investor states.
Come on now.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it happen. And then also looking to expand into other adjacencies, right? So one of the things that a lot of the bigger teams have is like title relationships or being able to kind of build out that piece. And title is essentially what protects your investment to make sure like, hey, nobody else is going to have a claim to this. And so we want to get into that as well. And we're working through those pieces. We hope to have that completed by the end of the year to where we can now not only help people purchase the investment, but help you protect it forever, right? As you pass it down to generations through a title company.
Yeah.
But those are the main two pieces on the docket. And then investing wise, I'm going to continue looking for investments. I'm actually trying to get more into like some flips. I've done a lot of rehabs over the years, but I've tended to keep those properties because I'm a buy and hold guy.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking to get more into the flips. And the reason behind that is I want to truly build out the construction team and do enough flips that I can have them start to work for us and now maybe give some cost savings to our clients that are looking to do flips. Because right now we give them the contractors we use, but we don't necessarily control that. If we bring that in-house and we control that, that'd be kind of cool
That's
to
right.
be able to help clients get even better deals.
Yeah, and we know that Atlanta has always been great for all kinds of investing. We've had people who've done the long term, they've done the short term rentals, they've done the commercial properties, they've done the fix and flip, they've done ground up construction. So, I mean, you're in one of those markets that you have all like those big 5 categories of things that you can hit. And you're already talking about investing anyways. So people naturally are going to want to bring you a deal and be like, hey, is this something that's in within your wheelhouse? And you have the ability to say yes.
100%. And when you look at where we are in the real estate market right now, the past 3 years have been rough across the board for real estate, right?
Yeah.
We're down in transactions. I think a lot of it pulled forward during the pandemic. But right now we're sitting around like 4 million transactions a year when that should be closer to 5 million, right? Which is a low season. But our team still is excelling. Like every single year, we've done more than we did the previous year. And so I'm looking forward to within 2 to 3 years, that switching more to a neutral, like back to the 5 million a year,
Yeah.
and being able to just continue crushing because now we're going to have a lot more people coming our way.
And what are you seeing specifically with the Atlanta investing market? I mean, outside of the fact that they're doing a ton of new construction and new builds out here, what's the direction for the market?
Man, we're still in a buyer's market, right? And I think right now the pain is at the all-time high for a lot of these sellers.
It is.
So you're seeing homes that are sitting for a bit longer, and we're putting in sometimes disrespectful offers, right? But people are coordinating it and connecting with us, and we're able to actually work out deals. And on the seller side, if somebody absolutely has to sell, we're not saying no to offers that come in. We're just trying to rework it. Okay, hey, you offered 50K below list, but what if we took it back up to the 50K, but gave you 20K in seller credit so you can buy the interest rate down? It equals the same thing. So like people are starting to work together to make deals happen. And so from a buyer perspective, I'm actively buying. We're helping clients actively buy. I think this is a time period where you can get into the market before the next wave.
Yeah, I mean, even for us and what we're seeing on the lending side, I think still over the last 12 to 18 months, more than 50% of our ongoing transactions have some sort of seller credits. specifically here in Georgia, you're really good at negotiating for them, and people will get them. I mean, even upwards of $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in seller credits that people are getting to save so much money. It's just the trajectory of where the markets are at. I think sellers are getting anxious and they want to sell their properties, and the buyers are coming in. They're like, "We have wiggle room. If you want us to buy, these are the terms."
Absolutely.
So I love it. Well, thank you, Nii, for coming out. I appreciate you jumping on the pod. Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you and your team in order to secure some deals here in Atlanta?
Ricardo, first and foremost, thank you for all that you do for our clients as well as myself. And thank you for having us on. And again, you can reach out. My name is Nii Adewale. Our website is Ekabo Home, EKABO home.com. That's also the Instagram. So feel free to reach out any of those ways.
That's right. Hell yeah. Thank you, Nii.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Come on now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I fucked up too. I'm about to fuck on a friend and attend it out GT cool.